Hi engineers, in this video today we're going to be talking about neurogenic shock. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and then check out engineer.org. That's where we have all of our notes and illustrations for every lecture that we put up here on YouTube, and you guys can check out and study from. But let's get started with neurogenic shock, also known as a type of distributive shock. Wow, I can't even get it out. So distributive shock, when we talk about that, we're going to be talking about fluid, basically. We're looking at fluid, and what is the fluid within our body that's really important is our blood. So when you think of neurogenic shock, think of distributive shock or blood. That's what we're going to be focusing on here. So when we talk about neurogenic shock, we're talking about a spinal cord injury that may occur. So when we have this spinal cord injury, we have injuries to areas within our spinal cord that help us in our day-to-day, right? So we have things like our cardiac acceleratory center, we have our vasomotor center, and all of these are going to help us with our day-to-day functions, especially within our cardiovascular system. So one of those is our cardiac acceleratory center, or it helps us control our heart rate, right? And this will help us control our heart rate, right? And it's the acceleratory center because it really actually helps with us controlling the heart rate and increasing it. And we also have our vasomotor center, which is going to help us have our blood vessel constrict, right? So we're able to close in this blood vessel and have it constrict. And that's all fine and dandy. That's great. That's what we want. We want some of our heartbeat to be nice and strong. We want it to be a constant beat that's going to be able to perfuse. We also want to be thinking about our constriction, right, in our blood vessels. This is going to be able to help us allow for constriction, for perfusion, for us to get blood to the vessels and organs that we need in our body. And when we have an acute spinal cord injury, we have an injury to the spinal cord where now these things aren't going to work the way they should. So our heart rate maybe isn't going to be what it should be, and our constriction in our vessels isn't going to be what it could be. And that is what we call our autonomic blockade. So when this occurs, we now have an autonomic blockade, meaning we are going to now block that process within our body. And when we block that process within our body, now we have an issue where our vessels are not going to be constricting. So we have, instead of vasoconstriction, we have vasodilation. And we also have a decrease now in our heart rate because our vagus nerve is now working unopposed, meaning that it's able to do what it wants, and it wants to vasodilate and it wants to decrease the heart rate. Where the things that we are blocking here, our cardiac acceleratory center and our vasomotor, they are wanting to increase our heart rate and constrict our vessels, so there's that nice balance. But when we have that blockade, now we are working unopposed here. Our vagus nerve is just able to do whatever the heck it wants. So because of that, we're going to have bradycardia, we're going to have vasodilation. And I want you to think back to anatomy and physiology and think back to these two equations that I wrote here. We want to think about what's going on. Our blood pressure is contingent on our cardiac output and our vascular resistance, right? So when we are having vascular resistance, we want to remember that there's an increase in resistance when we have a constriction or a narrowing. And when there's a dilation, this opening, there is a decrease in resistance. So if we are having systemic vascular resistance decrease, right, we're going to have a decrease. When you multiply anything from a decreased number, you're going to have a decrease in that blood pressure, right? And if it's hard for you to think about it, try to think about putting the same volume in two different types of straws. Like if you had a really big straw, right, one that you're going to eat a milkshake out of, right? You're going to use a big, thick straw. And then also think of like a little coffee stirrer that's a real thin straw. So when you try to put the same amount of liquid through them, it's going to have different types of pressures. So when we have this really big one, it doesn't take a lot of force. So say we got 2 ounces of water and you and your friend are racing and you have the big Dunkin' straw and they have the little tiny one that's the coffee stirrer. If you guys were to race, who's going to win? Well, the person with the big straw is going to be able to suck that up really quickly because there's no resistance, or the resistance is actually decreased because it's open so big. So we're going to think about that. If our systemic vascular resistance is decreased, then our blood pressure is decreased. Also, let's look into our heart rate, because remember, our heart rate can play into our cardiac output. Cardiac output is our heart rate times our stroke volume. So if we have a decrease in our heart rate, right, we're going to have a decrease in our cardiac output. If we have a decrease in our cardiac output, we got a decrease in our blood pressure. So what's going on with this patient? Remember, neurogenic shock is a type of distributive shock. And distributive, we want to think of fluid, distributing the fluid within our body. What is the fluid that's important in our body? Our blood. And if our blood isn't distributed correctly, we are going to have a decrease in blood pressure. So what's that going to look like? It's going to look like hypotension, and it's going to look like bradycardia. So let's talk about what happens when we have those signs and symptoms. How are we going to treat that patient, and what are the nursing interventions going to look like for that? All right, engineers, so depending upon the level of this patient's injury, there's going to be some different signs and symptoms and treatment and nursing interventions, but we're going to just talk about the generic ones that we're going to be looking at here. So with neurogenic shock, one of the biggest signs or symptoms is our hypotension, right? We talked about that. We talked about that decrease in the systemic vascular resistance. They're going to have a decrease in that cardiac output. And what's going to happen is we are eventually going to have a decrease in the blood pressure. So when they become hypotensive, some of the things that we want to do is what? We want to be giving the patient possibly fluids. Remember, IV fluids. But we want to make sure that we aren't giving them too much. So you want to be cognizant of that fluid overload. So make sure that we aren't fluid overloading them, because their problem really isn't volume per se, okay, because they do have adequate volume, it's that overdilation. So one of the first things we're going to do is we can give them fluids maybe to help out immediately, which isn't going to be the overall help, but we do want to make sure we're doing that. And when we start giving somebody fluids and we're concerned about fluid IV or we're concerned about fluid overload from the IV fluids, what are some of the interventions we can do? Well, remember, the patient's going to be strict I&O, so make sure we have a catheter in, a Foley catheter, to measure that. We're going to make sure that we are giving them a weight, so a daily weight, weighing this patient, right? These are some of the things that we can do for the IV fluids. The hypotension is still an issue. We're giving them fluids, probably aren't going to respond. What are some medications we can give? The butamine, any type of norepi, right? We're going to make sure that we are going to be giving them some vasopressors, right? Being able to constrict, because they're having trouble constricting their vessels. What else is going to be going on? They are bradycardic, right? So if they're having issues with the heart, the easy answer is to put them on telemetry, right? Making sure we are watching their heart rhythm, right? We are able to monitor them. What else are we going to do? We are going to give them atropine. And when we give them atropine, right, we're going to hopefully raise their heart rate. Raising their heart rate would also then hopefully raise the cardiac output. Raising the cardiac output will also hopefully help raise the blood pressure. So remember, we're going to be looking at their rhythms, right? So they're going to have perfusion checks, because the whole point of this is to make sure that they are perfusing. So we want to make sure that we're checking the cap refill. We're able to check their fingernails, all right? And we're looking at that perfusion, because if they're not perfusing to areas that we need to, specifically the brain, right, or their heart and their lungs, then we're not going to be able to get the outcome that we want. So we make sure that we are protecting those vital organs and getting that perfusion back. What are some other things we want to think about? This patient has some type of spinal cord injury, so depending on the level of it, we want to make sure we're thinking about immobilization. Keeping that patient safe, immobilizing the neck and the spine. We also want to think about what is going on with them and their family. So you want to make sure you're working for that comfort, that bedside manner, right? So we want to make sure that we are providing that comfort and care and that teaching, because this could be a very traumatic event for the family and friends, and it's the patient as well. And we make sure that we are giving that comfort and support for them and letting them know that you are there. And then there's going to be lots of other interventions that are going to occur down the line, but these are the immediate ones that we want to make sure that we are getting tucked away for us, so we can take care of the patient and make sure our patient has the safest and best outcome that we can give them. So overall, Ninja Nerds, that is the video on neurogenic shock. I hope this helps you out on your NCLEX and all of your nursing exams. And as always, until next time.